So growing up, I'm assuming you watched Nick. Disney,
yes.
Cartoon Network.
But not Nickelodeon.
Not Nickelodeon. Why? Why not?
I know, it's always a weird
Because
thing.
for me, I have my parents' hesitancies.
Oh, okay.
For Nick.
But you were allowed to watch it.
I was, but there was one show I couldn't watch. It was the lamest.
George Lopez.
Nick and I know. No, I could. I was allowed to watch that, but I couldn't watch SpongeBob. You allowed to watch George Lopez?
So Nickelodeon was the one exception.
Okay.
And I think it was always on later at night. So it was the one that my family, especially my dad, would sometimes tune into. Mm-hmm. I think it was all about that theme song, But
for George Lopez.
For George Lopez.
Yeah,
and he's just jumping up and down, dude.
That's
became
a classic.
Mr. Electric. From Shark Boy and
That's
Lava
true.
Girl.
Was it before or after?
See, that's what I don't know. But I feel like that was the first time I ever saw an actor from one thing being in a different role. I'm like, that's...
You made that connection.
That's him. Yeah. But no, I wasn't allowed to watch Nickelodeon because for one reason and one reason alone, my mom tuned in an episode of SpongeBob. Okay. And she saw how SpongeBob laughed. Would you do your best SpongeBob laugh?
You're not putting me on the spot.
All right.
Do that.
Sounds like a dolphin.
I'm going to do everyone a favor, not do that.
Okay, that's fair. Sounds like a dolphin, right?
Yeah.
She's like...
You had a fire Squidward impression a couple minutes ago.
Thank you. My Squidward impression.
You want to do it? You want to put it on the spot?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna
We'll save it. We'll save it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save it around.
I'll show you SpongeBob later.
I've seen SpongeBob.
You've seen him? Yeah.
Yeah,
you've seen him.
But no, it was the SpongeBob's laugh, and she's like, if you ever replicate that laugh, you're gonna be the most annoying kid, and everybody's gonna hate you.
So she's doing it out of love.
She was doing it out of love.
That's. But I'm not surprised. Your mom.
She dope. Yeah, but it was that weird thing of like, I now had to explain that to people when I go over to their house, and they're like, "What do you mean you can't watch SpongeBob?" Guess who I ended up being? The weird kid.
Thanks, Mom.
Might as well just had his laugh anyways.
I actually watched. I mean, I don't. Looking back in childhood, you can't put a time frame. I'll say a year, for example, of watching SpongeBob, and then my dad walks in one day and he's like, "I don't like it. Yeah. Can never watch it again."
Yeah, Plankton's a menace, dude.
Did you watch the SpongeBob movie though?
No, but isn't it like it's their go to real life? Like they come up from Bikini Bottom?
Yeah. It's dang. Who's the handsome guy? What's his name? The actor?
Alan?
My man. There's gosh, I think he's in Baywatch. Like the original.
Oh.
And
the original one. Or the new one. The new one was Zac Efron.
Way back in the day, maybe. I would say. I felt Baywatch vibes only because SpongeBob and Patrick, I'm probably butchering the narrative, but they're on land. They're trying to get back to Bikini Bottom. This guy is jacked. He's a lifeguard. He puts him on his back and swims, and he's like a boat. He just swims out to Bikini Bottom and then like puts him in his chest and shoots him. He shoots him down.
What?
Bro, I'm gonna have to. This guy was bronze, tan. He fits the UOMO aesthetic. Everything.
That would be a good way to die, dude. Just having that big hoss just slap you silly, dude, until you die.
Yeah. It's the last thing you see is an angel.
How would you want?
That's how handsome he was.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. How would you want to die? Dude?
How would I
dream
want to
death
die?
Here?
My dream death.
Could be silly. Could be borderline realistic. You know. You ever thought about this? I never thought about this.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I just don't want to die and my death be replicated in that video game Dumb Ways to Die. As long as I don't die that way, which
that would be embarrassing. Dude.
That would be embarrassing.
Yeah. I was on the phone with my brother and we were talking about like greatest, character death in movies and all that, and I think that we eventually started talking about Star Wars. And we were talking about who the greatest death in Star Wars. And as we were going through, we can only think of like 3 to 4 that are really good deaths because everybody else just goes out like a complete imbecile. Everybody has some corny deaths. But if I were to die, dude, I'd I have this weird urge to like slay dragons, if they were real.
Heroic.
Dude. So if I could talk to some witch doctor to create a dragon and then I fight said dragon, and that's how I die, kind of creating my own epic way to go out, kind of like Mysterio.
I was thinking that or Megamind.
Or Megamind?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, dude. Megamind versus, isn't Titan?
Titan, that's it.
Yeah,
Titan.
dude. Going out with that would be cool. But like the more realistic side is I would be fighting the dragon. Eventually I start riding the dragon. I probably just fall off the dragon and die. Probably just hit right into a boardroom, scrape down the window.
So we're going from dragons to corporate boardrooms.
Dragons can be anywhere.
They can be anywhere.
It doesn't have to just be, caves.
It's your dream death. I can't
had Kong in New York. I saw this in a movie once. It's true. I wasn't CG.
How does New York rebuild so quickly?
Dude, it got messed up in the Avengers movie.
In the Avengers movie, bro? That's right.
You saw the new Doctor Strange?
I did.
Actually, we saw it together.
We did.
How foolish. You know how they built a statue of Doctor Strange in the other dimension? That he is their hero, that he saved this world.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the statue of Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, and all that in the first Avengers movie? Right. They saved New York. They saved the world multiple times. But Doctor Strange saves the world once, and they build a monument to the dude. For what?
I grew up, those movies, I think I saw it somewhere. I seen it on Facebook or something.
I've seen them.
I've seen them. And it's like, you watch these Avengers movies, and they're beating up the bad guys.
Always.
They're destroying stuff's blowing up, Michael Bay style. And that's the coolest thing. And now for us getting older, imagine just getting a car, and you're going out. You're paying a very hefty lease payment monthly on it, and Hulk just comes and smashes it. He doesn't even say sorry. He just runs away.
Yeah, dude.
See, that's heroic. But then now your car's broken, and they're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, so like he's saving your life, so you don't die in that moment.
Sure.
But the $17,000 that you no longer have for your Toyota XYZ, IRS is still going to kill you. You're going to die a slow and painful death.
Yeah.
In that instance of just being on a corner begging. I don't know.
Would you want superheroes in this world? In the world we're living in? Because it's interesting. We got two different perspectives with Avengers and DC and all this great stuff. And then we have a show you just put me on, The Boys. You have that totally different perspective. Yeah. And the collateral damage that they bring to the regular folk like us.
I'm going to say yes, because I feel like that merch is fire, dude.
That merch would be fire. Yeah.
I'd wear a hat that advertised the superhero. The logo of Justice just staring at you in the face for like an hour as we're recording. And yes, because we can interview the superhero. True. All that has to happen is for the superhero to wreck my car. I'm out $17,000. I'm like, hey, this sucks, but can you at least do an episode?
Right.
And he'd probably say yes.
He probably would. Or her.
They would probably say yes.
But what about the doctors and the firefighters? Aren't those the real heroes?
Don't do this to me.
Your answer should have been. Your answer should have been. We are living in a world with superheroes.
My mom.
My mom is a. My mom is a superhero. That would have been the answer. I put your mom paid me to ask you that.
I'm thinking about all the things I should have said, but instead I'm thinking about homeboys and capes and tights, dude.
That would be really cool though.
That would be fire.
It would be really cool for like a day.
Yeah, like firefighters are also cool, but they're not moving calendars in the same way that the superheroes are moving calendars.
Right.
People want that on their walls. Not some hose,
a fire hose and a ladder,
and hats that look like they go backwards, but they're actually going forwards.
That's confusing. That is confusing. That's why we need.
What's the purpose of the shaping? What is the purpose?
I would hope there's a logical explanation to the hat that is both backwards and forwards. But there's no side though. You're right. It's kind of just like.
Yeah, it's so back heavy.
It is.
But it's also going forward. How weird.
So weird.
But no, firefighters, first responders, policemen, they are awesome. I think bus drivers are also completely underrated as far as just
Super.
what they do on a 5 days a week and then field trips on the weekends basis. So, 5 days a week for some, 6 days a week for others, whether it be to soccer games or actual field trips to like, I don't know, a museum or something. And if you are going into the city, there's crazy amounts of traffic. There's bus drivers for the places that like schools in the city, let alone suburbs and all that.
Right.
That's a pretty hard role, I feel like.
And you're babysitting on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to a degree, I feel like everybody is helping save somebody in every occupation.
Sure.
You go into the strip club and somebody's they're starving for something.
Sure.
And that person is able to save their current predicament.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're superheroes, but
someone's saving somebody.
I guess it's there's goods and services, and that's both.
Yeah. No, you're onto something. How about as a shoe designer? Whom are you saving?
I'm saving,
because you're right. I do believe that you're saving.
Yeah, I feel like my mom, she had a very interesting journey with trying to find shoes that really worked with her, and not just shoes that would be comfy for a week and then the shoe becomes weak. All the technology flattens out. So I feel like given the opportunity to design something worthwhile, I do think that would be something that would, if I'm able to put that on somebody, would help save
with your journey with shoes.
Yes,
I've heard countless stories of the origins of Nike or Asics. Yeezy is a brand that has probably taken has been the latest wave of shoes. I think it's dying down. But a really cool story you shared with me is someone had foot cancer, something like that, and the technology in the Yeezys, which was produced from Adidas, cured them. Like, no more foot cancer.
Yeah,
it's gone. That's saving,
dude. That is some chemo radiating technology right there. Yeah. Those little Boost. The technology in the Adidas Boost, actually inside each Boost pellet is an ounce of chemo.
That's what it is.
Yeah, dude. I know.
I didn't know that.
So I don't know if this story itself is true or not. This is something that was passed on to me from probably a big game of telephone.
So right? So game of telephone, urban legend kind of thing in the sneaker community?
In the sneaker community, so there are sneaker conventions. The first one I went to was back in, let me set on that number for a minute. I want to say 2017, maybe pushing 2016, or 2016 pushing 2017. And the one I went to, this isn't like some rinky-dink footwear convention put on by a community member. This is Sneaker Con, put on by their official Instagram page, website. Yeah. This is the real deal. And they rented out like a little fire hall.
Oh, wow.
To do it.
That's awesome.
And at the time, because you can only let so many people in because the venue was so small for Cleveland, you can only imagine how tight-knit that sneaker community was, because that was before it exploded tremendously. Excuse me, Liquid Death got me percolating.
That's sparkling.
Dude. Yeah, it's really good.
You can taste the mango in here, though.
Yeah, can you taste the chainsaw?
I'm
mango chainsaw
in the aftertaste.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
it's that thing that's allowing us to burp.
That's what it is.
So at these conventions, they're really cool, but it is a whole lot of people going around. How much is this? How much is that? Opposed to sitting there and appreciating this and that.
Sure.
So over time,
they're trying to get a deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
It started off as being the flea market of footwear, and dude, SneakerCon now, tickets are in the $50 range per person.
Okay.
I did have the privilege of being a vendor at one, and like that vending booth was so much money. And even then, I was splitting it with one of my other homeboys at the time, and it was maybe The space I had to operate on for a few $100s worth of paying was about the size of this table. Now, given that I split it down the middle with somebody else, technically it was double this size.
Still.
And thankfully I only had to pay half the price. But still. And there's a whole lot of urban legends, a whole lot of people that I met. There's some really good folks that I met, some of which I'd love if they could do an episode in the future. But with that being said, there was so much that happened that only happens at SneakerCon. So you've heard of like the Nike Air Mag self-lacing shoes from Back to the Future. Yeah. So I got to try those on.
That's awesome.
What a crazy flex that is, you know? Not really, but if you're in the community, it is. And there's also just those random things and phrases like, yo, shout out to @TruePortraits. He blessed me with that blessed artwork. And they throwing up the emojis like you've never seen before. That was the first time I saw the fire emoji, and I swear that was a thing before like Instagram like implemented it as like the first 5 emojis to put under a post. It was just a different world. The style people wore kind of put me on to some new stylings. But over time, it also became a place where you go to appreciate the shoe as opposed to just trying to buy everything you see. But yeah, that was one of the stories that I was told, is that there was this dude who walked around, and he was there at every convention, at least the big ones.
Okay.
And he had this shirt on, and it said, "Yeezys saved my life." And at first, I'm like, oh, okay, because he started doing the reselling thing. Sure. He was buying and flipping them. He went from poverty to Yeezys.
Yeah, okay. So saving his life financially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So homeboy stops by my table one time. He ended up buying so I used to do shoe artwork, right? Mm-hmm. You know this. And I went under the alias Shoe Portraits and Shoe _ Portraits. And it was a very cool experience. I've told you many crazy stories. And I'm surprised this is one that you remember just over the years here.
It's funny what sticks. It's funny what sticks.
It is. And as you know, I sold the single portraits, and I also had like the posters, right? Mm-hmm. I know you have a poster and whatnot. And I had a Yeezy poster with all the Yeezys that I had made at the current time. At that time, I'd only drew 18. So it was 18 in a poster. It was one of one. He came through and bought it, and he said, you have no idea how much this means to me. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Nice shirt, by the way. You know?
Got him.
And got him. And he said, yeah, I wore a pair of Oxford Tan Yeezys.
Okay.
So Yeezy 350 Boost, volume 1s. And he said that he had foot cancer, miraculously went away. So he went down as a legend.
Yeah.
And everybody knows him.
He's living in the podcast.
But nobody has that proof.
Gotcha.
So
I want to believe it.
Yeah.
I want to believe him. It makes sense.
It does. And kind of funny enough, on Disney Plus, Jeff Goldblum, he did a show, and it's exploring all these niche communities. Mm-hmm. And I believe it's episode 2, and it is he talks all about shoes. And he goes to SneakerCon Cleveland, and you can actually see me. I'm in a little frame, and you can see some of my artwork. So this was SneakerCon 20, I think it was 2019.
Okay.
So very cool.
That's very cool.
I do have some experience with conventions. Don't have a lot of experience with concerts. I do have some. But how about you, dude? Any cool concerts or cons that you've been to?
Yeah.
There was a fantastic one. I was in Colorado.
There was a fantastic one in a venue sort of out of Denver called Red Rocks. It's an amphitheater that our roommate Jake he's well versed. There's a video game. You might know this. I can't recall what the name was. So it's a video game where I believe it's in a post-apocalyptic world.
Fallout.
I believe exactly, yeah. And so in Fallout, the Red Rocks Amphitheater is in it.
Are you serious?
So when I brought it up to him, he was very, very excited, showing me a video game clip. I actually do think it's Fallout.
Dude, that's insane.
It is really cool.
What a weird specific location for a video game.
It's a beautiful location. As far as going to concerts or venues, conventions, not really my thing. I love the experience. I'd probably have gone to more sporting events than anything.
You have way more than me.
Well, there have been moments where you send me a picture. Hey man, I'm at a Cavs game. Like, bro, I want to. What about me?
But I've been have this.
You've been have this. Hey, take a look. No, this was a really, really special special time where I got to experience a concert in person. You watch these YouTube videos or you listen to the song on Spotify. It just changes it. And it depends on the artist as well. There are always those artists that this guy sucks live or she's horrible live. This was a special group. I'm really into this type of techno EDM, which is electric dance music. It's a genre which is kind of like the forefather of electric music. It's called house music.
So clean.
So it's if you've seen the Batman, you have, but the club scene, it's
the Iceberg Lounge.
It's the Iceberg Lounge. So it's kind of that bass and the creativity that people have with just that simple beat is fascinating. I've been listening to that genre for probably the past year or so.
You've been on a big kick with it. Lately.
I have been, and the big thing was I had that opportunity to go to that concert, and I was like, I want to at least know a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
So what I enjoy about house music, yes, you do have some vocals, you have lyrics and whatnot, but let's just take that away just for a quick sec. The ones that are completely instrumental and beat-based has a lot of repetition to it.
Yes.
And typically, repetition in a normal song hurts it. There's that song, it's called Safe and Sound.
Yeah, it was,
I don't know.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Great period of time of music.
Right? Okay, so that song is great for a minute. And I can lift you up. And then it does have one set of verses that isn't the chorus.
Right.
But for 3 minutes and 40 seconds, it's nothing but really chorus.
It's very repetitive.
And it does get to a point. It works in a 30-second commercial, though. With house music, the repetition of it almost allows you to do something at the same time that you're listening. I know you'll do homework and listen at the same time, because I do think it's somewhat stimulating to have almost like this rhythmic metronome next to you.
Right.
But then, what I really enjoy about house music, it switches. And it might not switch completely like a Baby Keem song where it's one song at first and another one.
Yeah.
But it switches almost like the song "Doing It Right" by Daft Punk. It's been saying "doing it right" for a minute, but then it throws in like a hi-hat.
Sure.
It throws in some sort of other music to it, and it's stimulating because you've been listening to something for a minute straight, and now it just changed, and it allows you to really hear that change. Opposed to a normal song that's very orchestral, and there's all these little things in the background you can't even hear. You won't be able to hear a harp in the same song that has violins and all these other instruments in there. And that's something I really do enjoy about house music. And then when it actually does switch, and it's a totally different, darker vibe, it gets a little different.
The beauty of it is that you can tie in that bass beat into and take it into so many different directions, where you have to look through my Spotify search results. It's study house music, and then I've had workout house music, where now at the gym I'm listening to house music. But it's a totally different, to your point, it can change, and it changes how you feel, how you perceive something. There's definitely a time and space to have that rhythmic metronome in the background, and at the same time, then if we want to have a good time, or if you want to work out, or if you just want to pick me up, it can do that for you too. And so to tie it back to the concert, you listen to house music and it's a genre. It's not a style of music that you connect an artist to. So for rap, you just mentioned Baby Keem, you think of Drake, you think of Future, the list goes on and on. Back to your 90s rap.
I do.
Yeah. So you can think of all those Nas, Biggie, I don't know, Jay-Z, you help me out here. Help me out.
Run DMC, Big L,
yes.
Nas, Beastie Boys. Yeah.
Wu-Tang. So you think of that. House isn't
I'm impressed by
a genre where that you connect a group to. But I guess the more you get versed into it, there are certain groups. And so to shout them out, it's Gorgon City, which is an awesome, awesome group. It's one of those where they were able to transition a song into another, and they just the layering of the beats, I could just feel the next song. It's a house song. How would you know? They do a fantastic job at that. It was a very memorable experience, and then the venue itself at night. So it's Red Rocks. It's an amphitheater. So the seats, the steps, it's red. There are 2 red pillars. So you look to your left, you look to your right.
Yeah.
The stage in the center, and they have lights shining up on these big rocks. Wonderful. And then in the background distance, you see the light speckles of Denver. And it's just, I'm not a Colorado person.
It's incredible, dude.
But that to me is something I'll never forget. So thank you for asking.
Yeah.
To relive that, it's awesome.
What airport did you come through?
Oh, hey, great one.
Yeah.
The Denver International Airport.
Sounds spooky already.
You know anything about the Denver International Airport?
I'd be hearing things.
I'm sure it's called something else, but...
So, this is where you're going to have to enlighten me because for 2 reasons. One, I can't speak from experience, and 2, you got to fact check me here. These are just things from a video, but I've heard of very, satanic...
yeah.
It's either something when you walk out of the airport. I don't know. There's some sort of statues, but then there's also a lot of paintings.
There's a lot of paintings.
What's your perspective? What did you see, and how did it physically feel? Did you have the heebie-jeebies?
Yeah.
Or was it honestly, it's all cap?
So, I bought into the hype. And I definitely have seen videos, read articles before I flew in. And so, biasly, to answer how I felt, to answer that question.
How did you feel?
I felt weird. I felt so weird. And I flew in with my girlfriend. And she was with me. She probably got annoyed by this because I just kept saying, this just feels weird. I like it here, but it just feels odd. It's so many weird things. And to your point, there's murals. There's one in particular that's very disturbing. When you enter the airport, so I saw this after my trip in Denver. I'm now getting ready to get to the airport to leave. As you're pulling into the airport, it's not really pulling in, it's this big entrance. There is this blue horse statue.
Blue horse?
It's a blue horse.
Okay.
It's a stallion. Homie, or a bronco, actually it's a bronco. Homie's on 2 legs. He's got his arms up like this. His eyes are red. So at night, the only thing that you see are the red eyes.
Dude.
The guy who made this statue died. And he died by that horse, that head was attached, it fell. Fell on his leg. He died of there's an artery, a femoral artery or whatever in your leg. Bleeds out, he dies.
That's terrifying.
They put the head back on. They say, job well done, RIP. Let's put it up in front of the airport. So you're not even in the airport, and there's already weird stuff. I guess if you were to look at the airport from a bird's eye view, it's shaped like a swastika.
Holy shit.
Which is, holy shit.
I had to pick up something to hold. It's kind of freaky.
Yeah, clutch the lion, bro. Clutch
right?
it. It's weird.
Oh,
and you can, there's all these conspiracy theories, and then there's always these logical explanations that, the way that the airport where it's situated, it's at the end of the Great Plains. And so you would picture wind coming down from the Rockies, sweeping over the Great Plains. So it's shaped like that because of winds or whatever.
That's cat.
Yeah, dude. There's weird underground tunnels. They're still working on it and expanding, even though they finished it 20 years ago.
It would be underground.
There's a lot of underground stuff. So.
Oh man.
I'm glad you asked, though. That's an interesting conspiracy theory. That's
very weird.
It's very weird and definitely disturbing. And I'm somebody who reads into conspiracies and wants to believe all of them.
Yeah, I don't really know if I have any good ones to run by you. Right? Probably like the second most famous one, the one that really kind of intrigues me because it is coming from a sci-fi perspective, is the moon landing being fake or not. And I recently watched this show. It's called For All Mankind.
Yeah, you like that show?
I love this show.
I have to watch it.
And I was curious to see if that was something they were going to touch on. And nope, they just simply switch it around to what if scenario of what if Russia beat us to the moon. But it's not just the what if scenario. It's also the what if of what if we never stopped the space race? What if it was constant back and forth blows of not just who could get to the moon, but okay, now who can be the first lady on the moon? And then who can send the first minority group to the moon? Who can establish the first base on the moon?
Sure.
Who can get to Mars first? And it's just the nonstop competition of it all. And I love that. But they never want to touch on the conspiracy.
So I think I haven't seen the show though. I'll put the attention to you. Does that show do a really good job of putting the stakes on? Because you emphasized what would happen if we didn't make it to the moon. And if so, from what you saw, to tie into that conspiracy, maybe there is an incentive for us to fake a moon landing because of that reason.
Yeah.
Because there's this nationalistic, but just this motivational pride that you feel from being and winning that space race and all the implications that it has in a global setting and moving forward. Not saying we faked it or not, but it actually sort of makes sense. That was a very, very tense time in American history.
Yeah, especially when we put it in perspective. I do forget that historic event, but there was something that happened that made Americans look really, really bad.
In real life.
In real life.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy goes on television and says, he talks about the redemption of being America, the redemption of this great country, or once great country. And therefore, while we can't, it's an amazing quote, and I so wish I could pull it up right now. Mm-hmm. But essentially, it's this great quote of him saying, paraphrasing, of course, we might not be able to be the most proud people here, but we can be the most proud if we get to the stars first.
Sure.
So it's this notion of we need, if we achieve this as a possibility of getting to the moon, it makes us look good again.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of desperation with that.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it would have been very interesting to live through those times.
Yeah.
And I know that Kennedy, there was just a lot on the global setting. I mean, you think of the Cuban Missile Crisis,
right?
Which I don't know why, but I connect to X-Men. I forget what movie it is. Do you remember that?
X-Men First Class.
Yes, that was
Kevin
fantastic.
Bacon
Yeah,
as,
bro, that's
Magneto?
fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
So, is it Professor X? That's how we learn how he becomes crippled. How he gets in that wheelchair of his.
He gets the mansion though.
Yeah.
What a dog.
That's true. He did. So, but that is a very tense period. A lot of good things, but a very tense period in American history that is really cool to see. The what if we weren't the first to make it? And it's to your point too. What if we didn't stop? Because we have stopped, and now we're slowly inching our way back more from a private sector. I believe it's somewhat soon, probably by the time this is up, Boeing will have partnered with NASA to launch spacecraft of theirs in the hopes that we're going to be able to get to the moon. Obviously, you know, the Artemis program and all that stuff with SpaceX. But that was 70 years ago, and here we are trying to get back to the moon. With that show, what are the timelines? So obviously we're in the late 60s, mid 60s to late 60s when Russia first gets to the moon in that timeline. Do they have like 2020?
So they're not quite there yet. Right now, where the show is currently at is the 1990s.
Oh, cool.
But it's essentially 2020. So think about it like this: we have a space program. Eventually, the space program shuts down. Mm-hmm. What that also alludes to is the advancement in human technology also gets shut down. We will create things for household appliances. We'll create things for everyday life. But the biggest technology advancements that we ever had in a single span of time in the last 100 years comes from the technology that was developed through spacecraft.
Space.
And then we take that same technology and it can be implemented in everyday lives.
I'm glad you touched on that. Yeah,
So by 1990s, they already have cell phones like we have now because they developed, good FaceTime technology for the astronauts up on the moon to talk to their families.
That's cool.
But they refined it in such a way, okay, well, now we can implement that in normal phones. So the technology is there. The style of how people dress isn't quite there yet because that's the one thing that's kind of hard to advance. I think fashion's mostly influenced maybe through politics, I want to say, and rebellious nature.
Sure.
And I think that unfolds over the span of every few decades. You get something different. Every few decades, things get recycled into dressing like how our dad dressed, and things like that. And I think
it's funny to see that.
It's amazing to see it too.
Cool.
It's funny that the things I do now, I realize like it's such a dad thing. Like I'll grab a C on here and I'll be like, oh man,
yeah.
And then I'll grab this. I won't even sip it. It's like, why'd you pick it up every now and again? These little things that dads do. But yeah, so the show's great. What I especially enjoy about the show, you asked about like the time jumps.
Yeah.
So there's only 3 seasons, and so essentially it covers 10 years every season, set the 1990s. And but what's amazing is there'll be 5 episodes. It'll do a 5-year jump, and then whatever. But one of the greatest twists in season 1, without giving too many spoilers away, I think it follows the characters without time jumps for 6 episodes.
Wow.
And at the end of episode 6, 5 years later, and it just what it looks like things are about to crumble under certain conflict. Then 5 years later, but it's not like, oh wow, they're not showing us the conflict, they're avoiding it. No, they show you how that then unfolded over the course of 5 years. Now it's even more serious. But the one thing about the show that I want to gauge your opinion on, and I never thought about it like this, there's a lot of dangers in space.
Sure.
Give me a few of them if you can think about it.
Dangers in space.
Dangers in space. What do you find to be incredibly dangerous?
It's extraordinarily uncontrollable. You can only do and predict so much. So, I mean, little things like flying debris. Obviously, it's vast and cold in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Etc. Aliens. Martians.
It's possible, dude.
Martians are out there.
Something's out there.
There's a lot. No gravity.
Yeah. Okay, so would you say it's scary?
It's terrifying.
I'd say that's scary.
It's a void.
Yeah.
There's black holes out there.
Yeah.
There's exploding stars. It's terrifying.
So what the show, and you did a great recap of, seriously, like that's pretty much everything.
Okay.
What the show's goal is to take that list and make it even bigger. And I think that just shows that there's some really good, brains behind that show. So one thing that they touch on throughout the show, at the time in the 60s, it's not exactly a normal thing to go and see a shrink. Or that's what they call it. But in this case, is it
like a therapist?
A therapist.
Okay.
Right. To talk about your problems.
Sure.
And they say shrink almost in like a bad way.
Right.
And if an astronaut is found out of, talking to a shrink.
Yeah.
You're out of the program.
You're weak-minded, yeah.
Exactly. Because at that point, you are not just a role model, you are a hero. You are representing the country on the moon. And if you are seeing a shrink at the time, they probably label you crazy.
Yeah.
And if that's not who they want representing the moon. Or the moon. The
moon.
America. NASA, right? And so in this case, they touch on if people go up there, can you go crazy from the isolation of it all?
Sure.
And that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially before they do develop the whole FaceTime thing, talking to your families and whatnot. You kind of can't. And then the other thing that's quite terrifying, and this is the one that freaks me out. The first scene on the moon where there's actual conflict, not landing your shuttle.
Sure.
Conflict with another person.
Mm.
And it comes in the form of they find a Russian astronaut and they're dope. They're a cosmonaut, dude.
Yeah.
They're wearing it's like a slightly pink suit.
That's cool.
With a silver visor opposed to white with gold in NASA. finds the astronaut, and the cosmonaut's looking at the astronaut, and the cosmonaut is holding almost looks like a hammer. But if you hit hard enough, it could easily pierce
the mask,
pierce the suit or the mask.
Yep.
But here's the thing: the visor, it's not open. You can't see his face. It's just the silver mirror reflection visor. And then there's the NASA guy. In this case, Ed Baldwin's named the character, and Joel Kinnaman's the actor. He's Rick Flag from Suicide Squad, if you've seen that. But and it's a stare off, and he has his gold visor.
So it's just reflections.
It's just they're seeing each other in the reflection. They don't speak each other's language. They can't make out each other's facial expressions.
That's literally the definition of uncharted territory. What do you do?
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like a quick draw in Western, like who's going to draw first. But there's more to it. It's not just, I see he has a gun, he sees I have a gun. It's, I don't even know how to communicate with them. Because we probably don't want conflict. But the minute this guy brings up the hammer or looks like he's going to throw it away, it looks like something's going to happen. The minute the astronaut takes one more step forward, it's hostile. And in that moment, not only is space terrifying when it's human on human, but if it happened to be an alien, it made me realize, they calm down, they say, yo, what's good, show us your greatest music, and let's smoke crack. But instead,
they know the right questions.
They do. They're just trying to have a good time. Which that's not what I'd find to be a good time. Right. But they're aliens.
They're advanced. They know.
Don't waste their time.
Right.
They're here for something. They're here for something. So we've all seen the plug walk music video with the alien. We know what they're here for.
Well, and I know you're going here with something. I'm just thinking with the astronaut and the cosmonaut, they're staring down. They're just two people.
Two people, dude.
But
both got families, man.
They're on a moon. But if something happens, the astronaut does something, and I'm sure you know how it unfolds, but the astronaut does something to the cosmonaut or vice versa. There's the implications back home where this astronaut is an extension of the U.S.
100%.
So if that astronaut does something to the cosmonaut, well, that is technically an act of war, really. So now you have all of this. You have, to your point, it's this terrifying feeling. You're on this unknown piece of rock. Yeah. You're staring at someone you can't even speak their language or tell their facial expression. And then you have the implications of, if I do anything, what about my family back home? Because I need to protect my life. But if I do something to this cosmonaut, the USSR is going to do something in response.
100%.
So I'm sure that unfolds in a very spicy way that keeps the show going. But that is really cool that they add those perspectives and reality and realism to those what ifs. That's really cool.
Yeah,
sweet.
It's a cool show. I think I was progressively more let down as the seasons went on.
Okay.
There's one of our other roommates. He ended up watching the show and he agrees season 1's the most strong, and then 2, and then 3. But it's season 1. If you're looking for just like a bite-sized watch on Apple TV, it is 10 episodes for the first season. The music's incredible, and I think it's a really inspiring piece of science fiction, but also like alternate history. But the other seasons I don't think are necessary. But the other seasons, the promise was NASA astronauts with like M16s that are painted white on the moon. That's awesome. That's a really cold shot. Like astronauts with guns on the moon. That's a screensaver. That's pretty sick.
That's a screensaver.
But fortunately didn't be all too great. But that aside, going back to this notion of we would have found an alien, given the chance, dude. First of all, do they exist? But also, do you think there would be some sort of universal language, or would they not understand this?
Right.
Or they not this is an act of war? Then it's wild.
What do they even look like?
That it took a show like this for me to realize there is no universal language. Even two humans from the same planet, although two different countries, 2 different languages, even they cannot converse.
Right.
Do they exist, Alan?
Do they? Cosmonauts? Aliens?
Aliens. Cosmonauts.
I feel like
What do you feel like?
There's two sides to the coin.
Yeah.
This universe is so infinite. There has to be, but at the same time, the universe is so infinite that there has to be some race or organism, whatever the case may be, that has advanced so much that they have found us.
Sure.
That is also scary because for us, we're walking through a forest, for example, and you're walking through and you're on a path, right? You're trying to find someone else. You're lost in a forest and you're trying to find someone else. As you're walking through that forest, you're passing these bugs and these pieces of grass. These are all living things, but you're passing them because they're not at my level. I wonder if that's how it is with Earth. Like an alien has passed us looking for this intelligent being and saw us and they're like
That's the ghetto.
Yeah, locks the door.
Locks the saucer.
Rolls the window up. And look ahead. They're like, imagine that. They pass us and they lock the door. They're like, nah, this isn't a good area in the universe.
Yeah, look how polluted it is. It just keeps going.
They just keep going. These guys they're not it. Oh, what are your thoughts? I mean, that was a very superficial response.
See, it's a good response.
I would say yeah.
You would say yeah.
Yes.
So let's start here. If you, all right, let's actually back this up.
How far are we going?
Is it a scientific fact that bacteria is living?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you consider bacteria to be living?
Yeah.
It is. It doesn't look like it.
Is it me? No, it's not.
Yeah. So there's bacteria that was found on Mars.
Right.
So technically,
that's an alien.
That is an alien. But it's very underwhelming.
Right.
The nature of bacteria and, well, it can grow and it can become this, perhaps. Or it can stay bacteria forever because that planet doesn't have what it needs to mutate.
Sure.
But perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
What I think about beyond that is, okay, well, it can't be the only planet that has bacteria, and it can't be the only planet where it eventually grew to this, or it actually does have sentient life, or anything like that didn't even come from bacteria.
That is literally a planet right next to ours.
Right,
and there's already in our solar system, the planet right next to us has bacteria. So to your point, absolutely.
Given hundreds, people out there say thousands, given galaxies and nebulas and all this other stuff.
Infinite galaxies.
It has to be if our neighbor has it. If our neighbor has what's like a common disease. I
was gonna say it, but let's say the cold. I was gonna say COVID.
They have a cold?
Sure. You saying our neighbor has a cold?
No, okay, let's say our neighbor has a cold.
Yeah, okay.
Odds are somebody else in the world also has a cold.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's the things we experience, it's never just, well, we're going it alone. A lot of other people in this world, even if it feels like we're going it alone, somebody else in this world is also going through that exact same thing. Same thing. Well, it feels like we only got the, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Yeah, let's see.
Uranus,
the whole,
Neptune, Pluto.
Sure.
Okay, so nine given planets, right?
You rep them all out.
Thank you.
The whole solar system.
Thank you.
Nice. And the sun.
Odds are that there's another besides the 9 that does have it.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this, though, obviously the yes or no. So by a technicality, for me, it's a yes. But do I think that there's something beyond bacteria, something that's a little bit more alive, and has a little bit more movement? I also do believe that to be yes.
Yeah.
If we go off my analogies. Now, for you, we've been able to create video games. Now this is very interesting.
Okay,
so this is a very quick and easy concept of we are the programmers. We create the video game, but what you do get, you get NPCs, people that aren't actually alive, but we do get playable characters.
Sure.
Well, now there's games with AI. You fight AI bosses. You fight bots in Call of Duty.
Right.
We just tried this the other day.
Yeah.
You can fight a bot. It's
they're very good.
They're pretty good.
At least for me, they're very good.
Right. There's that movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. I don't know if you saw it, where he's a NPC, but he comes alive. Well, there's also modern games now where that's beyond an NPC. They are as if it's a real character, like you, a real person playing it, but it's actually not. It's all an AI. The question is, that's a form of a simulation.
Sure.
And are we free-thinking NPCs? And is there somebody behind the curtain? In this case, it could be God.
So are we in a simulation?
Right?
Yeah.
That's the question. Is the game religion? And that's the game we have to play. And if we play it all the way till death, that's our salvation.
That question puts me on two different routes, because you bring up the theological religion aspect.
Sure.
And, people... I feel as if when it talks about aliens and other intelligent life and at some point in the universe that they exist, that is unchristian or whatever religion it may be. But from a Christian perspective, because that's where I can speak the most from, you talk about the God of the universe. Well, it's the God of the universe. We're made in his image. Who's to say that we're not the only other... He's the God of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. There could be other things and other creations of his that exist throughout the universe. He's the God of the universe. From the simulation perspective, I feel like it could be in an infinite loop, because we're at a point. Say we're in a simulation. Say there is a puppet master, and we're doing everything to what they've programmed. Well, we're at a point now. And just imagine the exponential growth that we will be at in 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. We're at a point now where we're able to create AI and this simulation to an extent. What happens to the point when we are able to now create our own simulation? And now the beings, the creations, and the sentience within that creation, within that simulation, they start to expand, they start to grow. And they now are able. So it's like, if we're in a simulation, the people who are the programmers, who's to say they aren't in a simulation either?
See,
you know what I'm saying? Isn't that
crazy? It's the door
going.
when you open, and there's another door, and you open that door, and
exactly.
I love this concept.
It's fascinating. A couple months ago, was on a YouTube craze of all these conspiracy, but more so simulation, and the logic and the science behind it, and the Egyptians built this, and this to a certain point, and it's shaped like a motherboard. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, that's a stretch. But then they're like, if you do this, this, and this, it all lines up. I'm like, okay, that's not a coincidence. I can't bring out the science lingo, but
yeah,
it's a fascinating concept. It's terrifying.
You mentioned, you're right. So religion does go hand in hand with this, right? With the aliens, it's tough, because then I sit there and I say, well, why would God do a second attempt like this? Why, questions come into play, but also, why wouldn't he? Because if he's making all these other galaxies and all these other planets, is it simply just, that's level 10. So if the humans get to level 9 and they beat it, I'm setting them up for DLC,
what we dropping, boys?
Right? God has to stay entertained. He probably is entertained by whatever it is we're going through. But he wants to probably see us get to Mars. But in the other side of it, the simulation side, same thing. Well, somehow religion has to play into this.
Sure.
And the route I always think of, okay, so it still fits. God creates us. Mm-hmm. But also the simulation edge, I don't see how religion fits unless the goal of the game, of the simulation itself, is finding God in the game, in this case in life, finding Jesus or whatever it is that you worship, and sticking with it through life, living by, in our case, the 10 Commands, right? Or commandments. And that's how you beat it, if there even is a way to beat it.
I'm curious to see how you would answer this question. You had a Wii, right?
I did have a Wii.
So you know that feature, the Me, right? You can create something.
Yeah.
The very first Me, do you remember what it looked like, or what its name was, or how you?
Dude, this is getting freaky. Yeah, it was Vincent.
It was Vincent.
But then there came my brother.
Yeah.
My mom. My dad.
So if you think of we're created in God's own image, there's this like natural feeling of wanting to replicate yourself or replicate your beliefs, your thoughts, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
My very first Me was Alan. Like,
God,
you wanted to see yourself.
God made Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, it's technically him, but it's like Vincent making Vincent as a me form.
Yeah, it's just very interesting because it's just natural that a little whatever. Let's say you're 8 years old, little 8-year-old Vincent makes a Vincent me.
You get to play as Vincent.
You get to play, and I'm sure you start making a little story for him. You get to play in sports. He's the best. He's the best tennis player.
Yeah,
he can bowl like I don't know any bowlers. He can.
This dude can box like Mike Tyson.
He can box like Mike Tyson. Actually, remember that? Who's the undefeated guy? Michael, whatever his name is. What's his name? Matt.
Dude, Matt went silly.
Undefeated, bro.
Dude, he went silly with those boxing gloves.
You're Nadal on tennis or Roger Federer.
Oh man!
But you are that guy because it's just so cool to make yourself and then emulate yourself and picture yourself up there. It's a very interesting concept.
So we're talking about me's. I might be alone on this one.
Okay, here we go.
Did you ever make me's of like your crushes at the time?
Dude, I had like 200 me's. So yeah, probably I made my whole class.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
Crushes included.
Sat down with the yearbook in lap.
Bop, 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 boom. With the with the
yeah, with the.
Press the button. Actually, you got the nunchuck here on this.
You looking up with this
over here. Oh, hold on. Oh, there we go. And then you got the little and then you got to make sure it's clipped in here with the nunchuck.
You got to get the nunchuck going, dude.
with the textbook under here. Yeah. So that's what I did.
Dude, perhaps the greatest archive of Vincent's past is going into the Me channel.
Ooh.
Future wifey, if I'm lucky enough, if you're listening to this, years from now, don't go to my Wii and look at my Me's because just don't.
I don't even want to now. Actually, I want to.
Tell you what you shouldn't look at though. You know how there's a picture gallery on the
Wii?
So this is how silly you have to be.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to call it as I see it. If you upload family photos to your Wii, there's something wrong with you.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go in.
Go, yeah.
There is a photo gallery feature where you click on the channel and you can upload photos. The fact that somebody has a camera or a phone, uploads that shit to a hard drive or a flash drive, and then connects it into the Wii, selects those photos, drops them into the Wii, you a sucker MC. That is the stupidest thing.
That's perplexing.
Yeah, that is wild.
They had us doing that, though. I did that. My dad did that.
He did?
Yeah.
Onto the Wii?
Yeah.
Well, your dad's not silly. Your dad's a
he's
sophisticated man.
He was silly then.
Take it back.
How about is silly looking back? He felt cool at the time, though.
Well,
my dad's a sucker MC.
Sucker MC.
Sure.
Suck MC daddy. But in this case, speaking of looking back, I had a friend who bought, well, technically it wasn't him, it was his dad, who was in a McDonald's with both of his kids.
Okay.
They bought a Wii from a guy inside a McDonald's who claimed he was homeless and said, I really need the money for food. I was gifted this Nintendo Wii Have I ever told you a story?
No,
Okay.
Maybe you have. Okay.
So he gifted him the Nintendo Wii, and from there, he said, all I'm asking is X amount of money. The time, I feel like Wii's were like in the $200 range. They weren't the most pricey thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was $80. The cool thing about this Wii, though, it was like Super Mario branded.
Oh, so it was the red one.
It was red.
That's awesome.
It had like these cool stickers on it, and then the controllers, dude, ridiculous. Like one was Mario, one was Luigi. And I remember going over to the house and playing on it. It was the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
So, the story goes, they buy it. I don't know about you. There's so many red flags to the situation.
Yeah, I mean the Wii's literally red, so
that's a pretty big flag.
Yeah,
if we're color coding the flags here, that's red.
That's red.
Why? How are you gifted a Wii if you're homeless? Where can you play it? You don't got outlets on the corners.
And how are you running your own business in a McDonald's too?
Right.
Was it in or in the parking lot or?
It was inside.
Yeah, right.
They were approached while eating probably a McDouble. A double stack. That's sick. And a large Sprite with no ice. No ice.
No ice. That's sick.
Yeah. They buy it. I feel like it was more so out of the charity side of things. Respect the hustle kind of thing. And they get it home. They enjoyed the living life out of this thing for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it was. It was a great console thing, never broke, thankfully. But one day, you know how there is a journal tracking on the Wii to tell you when you played a game, how long you've played the game?
I don't think I ever discovered that feature.
Okay, so my friend got in trouble because he was grounded, right?
But
the parents didn't take away the gaming systems.
Okay.
They just trusted that their kid wouldn't play it, right? Well, he was caught playing it, and the mom goes and starts looking at the game log journal to see, you've been grounded for a week. How many other times did you play this week?
Yeah.
7 days that he played. Respect.
Not even one day. He
not
said,
even
I'm going to be a good son.
Yeah.
All 7.
It must
not even on the Sabbath.
He was playing that shit on mute, too.
Yeah.
Playing on mute. Okay, don't click the buttons too loud. In mute. Playing Wii Tennis in mute. Well, the mom was also scrolling through, and she just thought she'd check up on all the apps.
Yeah.
Look at the Mii's, look at the whomevers, and then she looks at the photo gallery. And it's a grown man's penis. And it's grown because there's certain features.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I think she put 2 and 2 together that was not her husband's. I mean, you should know this.
Yeah, I would hope.
And it definitely wasn't her son's. So she's freaking out. This is the first instance of my kid got sent nudes, and also it's a man. So that it comes with some complications.
Sure. There's a lot of emotions that I'm sure we're going through.
Yeah, I mean, she was a very concerned for her 13-year-old son.
I would. Yeah. I would too. Yeah.
So goes and finds the kid. Long story short, they track it back to these. They check the date. They had the dates in the photos. This was the homeless man's.
Dude.
What a menace!
That guy, holy crap! You buys a Wii.
I think it was 2 or 3 years later, it gets unraveled. What a long going prank that was.
That was worth for that guy every minute. But that's the thing too. You have to be deliberate because you're explaining the step-by-step process to get a picture. You got to take it with your digital picture camera back in the day. Because now I can take a picture, airdrop it to you, it's there.
Yeah.
I don't even have to think about it.
Right.
Takes a picture on the digital camera, gets a little connector, puts it into the computer. Computer processes it, gets it, downloads it onto its memory, buys a hard drive, takes the hard drive, puts it into the computer. This is multiple steps. You really gotta think about this.
It's so much.
You're intentional.
So much more than just putting pictures on a Wii.
You put it then onto the hard drive or the USB. You put it into the Wii. The Wii probably pops up a screen saying downloading pictures and showing them all.
It does say that. It has the loading.
And each one of those is just reminding him of what he's doing, and that's further cementing.
Yeah. He put his Johnson on a Nintendo Wii.
His Johnson's on the Wii. Nintendo.
And he sold it at McDonald's with his kids.
The Mario version too, of all things.
And with that, I think we're out of time.
We're out of time. This was awesome.
This was a great episode.
I had a blast.
Me too.
So.
All right. Till next week.
Till next week.